Hi again, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Inside Furman Athletics. I am Dan Scott. It is great to be with you as always. And this week we are going to talk some Furman women's golf. Guy that you should know pretty well. He has had quite the successful run. Now in his 9th season as the head coach here, 13 years overall. Jeff Hull is this week's guest. How are you, my friend?
Good, Dan. How are you?
I am doing well. I say all the time, whether Tom and I are doing a ball game or just conversations like this, the best stuff never makes the air. It's always the stuff that goes on during commercial breaks, but it's always good to talk to you on the air or off the air. How you been?
Good, good. I'm glad we don't have that hot mic situation going.
Yes, well. Yeah, you if you've been in the business 40 years, usually you're pretty good about that. Sometimes you're at the mercy of a producer somewhere else. I have had my little foibles with that from time to time, but we try to keep that in check as much as possible. And ninth year as the head coach, 13th year here overall, and the program just keeps rolling along, man. You guys are doing well.
Well, it's all we can do. It's every year it's different. The way college athletics is going right now, so it's a unique environment all the time. So it's but it's still fun.
Mm-hmm.
I've always said if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do it. There's obviously challenges, but I don't care if you go to Clemson, South Carolina, or the bigger schools, you're gonna have different problems.
Right.
You're still gonna have problems. So you just there's so much more good that goes on that we just love doing it.
How has that, in your words, unique environment affected your program compared to what we have seen with the bigger schools?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing is obviously the, opening up the transfer portal. It can affect you. If you get a good player, the big schools can come calling on you. NIL hasn't really affected college golf yet. It's getting close. But I think that just the growth of golf in general, the fact that our, national championship is on the Golf Channel, and there's also, I think, 5 televised events throughout the year on the Golf Channel, and just golf being so popular that all the schools now, are really putting effort into men's and women's golf.
Mm-hmm.
And, when I got in the business late, but 13 years, 14 years ago, there was about 20 or 25 schools that were pretty good. I mean, you got to go. There's teams that won't make the regional championship that on any given day could probably have a chance to, compete.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the elite, the top 5 or so are still elite, but man, the depth has just gotten incredible. So you're fighting for a lot more, pieces of the pie.
And yet, this is a program at a school the size of Furman that has been able to carve out a space in that area for itself. And you talk about great players. You have been blessed to get and retain great players since you've been here.
Yeah, that's been, I think, the team success is always fun, and I think, when I first got here and, things were a little bit different. We had a little bigger roster, a little more depth. And I remember the year we finished, a couple years there we were top 10, and, we had 6 kids, 5 or 6 kids that were all almost interchangeable. They were the same. And then, so then we ended up, every year we've seemed to have had one person kind of step out. So, I mean, initially it was Natalie, and obviously being the national player of the year was awesome. And then there was Anna, and then Anna just went out and won more tournaments than anybody in Furman history and was, 3-time female athlete of the year in the SoCon. I mean, you couldn't ask for, a better kid than that. And it looks like now, I mean, we've got, Audrey's coming on and really starting to, put some great rounds together and is, keeps kind of climbing the ranks. So, hopefully she's like the kind of the next one, and we keep trying to add to it.
Can you identify those players and that potential in the recruiting process and say that's the person that can be, that's the young lady who can be the next Natalie or Anna Morgan?
Boy, if I could do that, I'd be a wealthy man.
I was trying to set you up for success there, Jeff.
Yeah, no, I can, it's interesting. I think you can tell potential. You can tell all that. I think it really comes down to, what's their mindset when they get to school.
Right.
And obviously Furman being, very, rigorous academic school, and the balance that you have to have here. That's the part that you never quite know. But, every kid that's come here that's wanted to get better has gotten better. And so that, the goal here is to make them not only better golfers, but better people when they leave. And, hopefully we've done a decent job of that.
But what's interesting is when you have that kind of success with an individual and it leads to team success. I don't know if easier is the right word, but you can tell me, but it leads to more success in recruiting. And it's that way with any sport. I mean, you look at the Alabamas of the world in football, and this is before, you're spending millions of dollars in recruiting. They're a football power, and pick any handful of schools. Kids want to go and play there because they're great. Well, you have the success with Natalie Srinivas, and you have success with Ann Morgan. So you're on the map. That means that kids want to come. So I'm not going to say it's easier to get them in, but at least Furman's name is known out there. You're not an unknown when you're going knocking on somebody's door.
No, and that's the thing too. I think you look at the landscape of, say, women's college golf, and and there's a lot of schools that they're very good at recruiting. They're good at going out and bringing in a lot of talent, and then just managing the talent. And I think what we've tried to really hang our hat on is that we try to develop. We try to take players that maybe aren't at the top of the recruiting list, and we want them to be at the top when they leave.
Right.
And to me, that's more fun. I mean, as a teacher, inherently, that's what I enjoy. I like, having a kid coming in that, kind of aspires to be better, and then we help them do that. So that's where I think we've tried to separate ourselves anyways, is with the facilities that we have, in the golf course, everything being on campus, and then hopefully helping them get better. I think that's a cool thing to sell.
So when you bring, let's say, Anna Morgan, and you just mentioned 3-time Female Athlete of the Year here at Furman, and did so many great things. You bring her onto campus, and you talk about wanting to develop her. I would say that was a pretty successful development of a career, but what were the steps in that process? And okay, she's Female Athlete of the Year 3 times, but she continued to get better every year, right?
Yeah, I think, and it's funny because Anna and Natalie both were fairly similar. They were very good junior players coming in, maybe not at the top of their class, but, they just had this drive and desire to be really good. And every day was, how do I become better? And completely different personalities, but yet the goal was the same. And so sure enough, every year they just got a little bit better. And that's the thing that I don't know, that it's almost impossible to know that going in. But I think, I think with both of them, Anna especially, Anna was just a good athlete. Anna was a pitcher, not a softball pitcher, a baseball pitcher. Like, she would go strike out dudes. Like, she loved that. She was, she didn't play softball. She played baseball. And Natalie was pretty much all golf, but her dad was one of the best tennis players in the country back in the day. So she grew up with that very competitive spirit. So that you just never know.
And you mentioned something in there that I think oftentimes gets overlooked, especially maybe when you're dealing more with an individual type sport, even in a team atmosphere. Yeah, you're coaching sport, you're coaching technique, you're coaching all those things, but you're also managing personalities. And you talk about whether star players or whoever it is having different personalities. That's something that you as a head coach have to learn to adjust to, because every player's personality is not the same, and you cannot have a mold where you're just stamping out one player after another off an assembly line, as much as you'd like to, maybe.
Yeah, and I've learned that lesson. I've learned that, how, Natalie did it. It's not the same as how Anna did it, and Audrey's different. And so you really have to look at that. And I'll use Audrey as a great example because she's just so talented in so many things that if you try to lock her into one thing, I think she struggles. Whereas if she's an amazing pianist, so we just said, look, we just have to time manage very well.
Right.
Do your piano, but let's not make it a stressor. Make it a stress reliever. So she now has her time cut out. She goes and prepares for an end of the semester recital every year, and we go watch her, and I'm just like amazed. So here's a kid who can get a 4.0 in biology and play concert piano and play really good golf and then still has fun. Still goes out and has a good time. And so many of the kids at Furman are like that. I mean, almost all of our kids on the golf team have been that way. They're just, they're always able to juggle and do things.
Yeah, I think you find out as parents that you can't manage personalities. My wife and I have laughed for years now that if we'd have had our second daughter first, we wouldn't have had a second daughter. So, that because that's just the way it went. So, and we get a particular bit of satisfaction watching her raise our 4-year-old grandson now because he's just like her. And she says, "How did you put up with this?" And I said, "Well, guess what?" But there's a little bit of coaching in that too, with managing personalities and trying to treat everybody fairly, but not same is not fair is not the same, right?
Right, and that's I go back to I think it was Jimmy Johnson that said back in the day, it's like I treat everybody fairly, just not the same, and so you have to be able to do that, and we were talking about this the other night. I got to go to the Bell Tower Ball this weekend as Cindy Davis's guest, and she won the Distinguished Alumni Award. And in one of the conversations, somebody asked about, and I said, well, you got to be careful what you wish for because my wife and I were very fortunate to have our son. But we really couldn't have any other kids, and we always wanted a girl. I said, well, be careful what you wish for because now I get new girls every year, So we get to experience all of that.
And your wife is saying, "Praise the Lord," right? Jeff Hull, our guest, we're talking Furman women's golf on this week's edition of Inside Furman Athletics. Before we hyper-focus on this team, there are some extra benefits to what you're doing. I mean, if not for these high-caliber players, you wouldn't get to caddy at places like Augusta National and do some of those other things, right?
Yeah, this is, unfortunately this year I don't get to go back. It's the first time we haven't been to Anwa, since they started it. But yeah, I mean, those are great things, and that does help, the program. And it's fun to be a part of those things and being able to watch Natalie and Anna and Haley and Alice and all the kids that played in it. I mean, it's been really fun.
I'll never forget, we were on a basketball trip. This was years ago, first couple of years. Georgia Southern was still in the league because that's where we were going, and Ron Smith was my broadcast partner at the time, and we were going US 25, and it took us through Augusta to get to Statesboro. And you have to be going to Statesboro. You don't just happen by there. In fact, I've often said that if I ever write a book about life on the road as a small school broadcaster, it would be titled "I spent a month in Statesboro one weekend."
Yeah.
But anyway, we passed by Augusta National, and Ron got to play there one time. And the most impressive thing I think I've ever heard anybody do, he took me through all 18 holes, shot by shot, from memory that he did. And I guess if you get to play the Mecca like that, you can do that.
It's and you can relate it to just about anything in life. If that's your pinnacle, you're going to remember that.
Right.
And we were talking about this as well the other night. We were talking about like Augusta and then Pine Valley up in New Jersey, which is, again, they're always the top two in the country. They always battle that out. And I've played them both. I've been fortunate to play them both. And the funny thing was, it was like, if you play bad at Pine Valley, it just beats you up, and it's hard. And Augusta is obviously just as difficult, but if you play bad at Augusta, it just doesn't matter
because you're there.
You're just there, so it's like it's fine,
I have a longtime friend in the newspaper industry named Pete Karasotis, and this is going back about 30 years. I don't know if they still do this, but after the Masters, they used to have Media Mondays where the media got to play, and you could play one time in your life. And the first round of golf he ever played in his life.
That's a good one.
He got pulled in the lottery, and he played at Augusta National. How about that?
Well, you don't play anymore?
No, I think you probably retire.
You're just done.
After that, exactly. All right, let's talk about this year's team, and you referenced Audrey Yu. She is the reigning SoCon Player of the Week, and going back to the fall, she's already won that award 3 times this year. So is she the next one in line?
Hope so. I don't want her to just be given it. I want her to go get it.
Right.
And I think we've got some other kids on the team that are going to push her, and that's why I think she has gotten a lot better. But yeah, she's from a stroke average standpoint, where she is in comparative to the other great players in Furman history. Yeah, she's right there.
And just a sophomore, right?
Yes.
What is it about her game that makes her special?
Just balance. I think she's just kind of solid in everything. And I think probably the coolest thing about her is she doesn't get flustered. She just kind of is out there, and she'll I'm sure internally it gets her sometimes, but I think she just is just very, very level-headed out there, and I think that's good.
Is that maybe the single consistent mark of the great ones? It's the old duck.
Yeah.
You can't see what's going on under the water because above the water everything's they never show those emotions, and they're able to keep it all under control. Is that the single constant characteristic?
I don't think so, and the reason I say that is it's more about knowing how to play as themselves, how to be the best version of themselves. Natalie was the duck on water. It was stoic. It was never her. It was just solid. Anna was fiery. Anna could show some emotion. Had highs and lows, but that was her personality.
Right.
And Audrey is just, she's level-headed, but she's, kind of fun and goofy and just likes to, kind of always have fun. So I think it's more about just being the best version of yourself instead of trying to create something that you can't do. Yeah.
Yeah, when Tiger Woods came along and started winning all those tournaments, the one of the very few things that people criticized him about, because they couldn't criticize him about the way he played, because he was beating people to death, was the emotion that he showed on the course. And whether it was the roar and the fist pump, or whether it was smacking the club and the F-bombs, or whatever it was, but that's who he was.
And there you go. And that's and you never saw him, I think, really when he was really in the middle of it like that. He was locked in. I think you always saw those things maybe when, like the anger was always maybe when it was not quite there yet, and he was just trying to get it going. But it's the exact same thing, and I learned that early in my career. I did the same thing. I was trying to be, I love Ben Hogan. I was trying to be Ben Hogan. I'm the farthest thing from Ben Hogan. So, I had to become the best version of Jeff Hull. And so that's what we try to let the kids do. And I think the way that you do that is, like, when you talk to him, it's like, look, what you're doing is fine, but let's manage it.
Right.
It's okay to be I don't want you to be a robot. If you get upset, but leave it there. Let's move on. And I think even the kids who look like they're very stoic, I think you almost need to say, it's okay to get upset. Yeah.
Sometimes it helps to let it out.
Yeah.
Because I guess, I know this as someone who played baseball and basketball, someone who coached baseball for a lot of years. The one thing you don't want to do is carry a failure, say, from the plate to the field.
Yeah.
You because you do that, you're going to fail twice.
Exactly. Yeah,
so
you leave it.
Yeah, you have to leave one hole to the next, one shot to the next.
Yeah, we always say, look, by the time you get to the next shot, it's got to be gone, and you've got to, just go.
The problem, Jeff, as a former pastor of mine used to say, that's easy preaching, hard living.
It is.
It's easy to say and not always easy to do, right?
Well, and that's why, we talk about, the famous expression is, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect.
Right.
Well, nobody's perfect.
Right.
So, but if we just keep saying, look, if you get better and you keep doing those things, then things will get better. But, it's impossible to do that.
All right, so Audrey is obviously playing very well, and the one maybe people are focusing on, but you said she's getting pushed. and that's one of the things that's helping her play so well. Who's pushing her?
I think everybody is. I think this year's team especially, they're all just very hungry, to get better. You look at a player like Elise Knudsen, who came here, transferred from Illinois, and she sat and told the team in our meeting this spring, she's like, when I was at Illinois, they won the Big Ten, but I wasn't in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, and last year, we did not play well. And she goes, I want a ring. So she's kind of pushing everybody like, this is ours. We need to go get this. And then Jenna Madden, our freshman, one of our other freshmen, I recruited her pretty hard, and we were lucky to get her. And, she's one of those really fiery competitors, and all she wants to do is just keep getting better. So she's out there all the time as well. Even a player like Andrea, who, came in kind of late, incredibly good student. She's a 4.0 student. She speaks Chinese and all kinds of languages, and she's in there grinding every single day. So, we get and then Kelsey's the same thing. She came in, just wants to get better. And I mean, sometimes we have to tell Kelsey to go home because she works too hard, and then Eva's, from Germany. And so I think, Eva has got a ton of talent and has been working really hard. So I think right now everybody is capable of contributing. And so I think that's where it's fun. Somebody like Audrey can be pushed.
Right. And at least your transfer, a senior, and then everybody else is freshmen and sophomores.
Yeah, we got a young team.
Yeah.
And I got 2 coming in next year. So, but that's a good thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's good because we can always say, and we've kind of said this even this year, it's like, all right, and I hate to say it sound this way because like Anna and Caroline Crumrine were here for a long time, and I've known them both for years, whereas now all these kids, I haven't known them very long.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get to do some things new. We get to change how we, to your point, we can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again. We got to learn and evolve, and so now we've got that opportunity.
Does
with
that
these kids.
reinvigorate you? Because do you find yourself, and I guess we all do this, if you're not careful, falling into a rut about the way you do things?
Oh yeah, and I that's where Mackenzie, who's our associate head coach, she's outstanding, and she's a good person for me to hang out with because she'll set me straight,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll set her straight, and we try to set the team. So we're all about accountability, and I think I love to hear new ideas, and we always say, look, if you have a better way, tell us,
Right.
and if it's better, we'll use it,
Mm-hmm.
but just because it's different doesn't mean it's better.
Right.
Sometimes older ways are better. Sometimes some newer ways are better. We just have to evolve with that.
And it's good for me to hear that even now you're still doing that kind of self-evaluation, doing it with your assistant coach, you guys trying to find those things. I think all coaches do it. I talk to Clay all the time, talk to Bob all the time. They're always doing self-scouting, even in season, and then particularly after the season. They're doing self-scouting. As a broadcaster, we'll go. Tom and I sometimes coming back from a basketball game, we'll put the game on that we just did and listen to it coming back because you want. Are you slipping into patterns? What did you mess up? I called somebody by the wrong name there, or I did this, that, or the other. You should always be striving to get better, whether you do or not. In a broadcasting situation, I'll let you guys be the judge of that. But I think anybody who is successful, and you have obviously been very successful, there is that aspect to your job and your personality. There's always some self-scouting and self-evaluation that goes on.
Yeah, and I think, I kind of wish that we were all broadcasters. I wish I could go back and hit replay and hear it, because sometimes it's not even the message you send, it's maybe how it was delivered.
Mm-hmm.
And you always have to work on that, and that's the thing I think I probably spend the most time on is just, how do we get a message across, and how do we try to make somebody or help somebody do something differently and get them to believe it's going to be better at the end.
Yeah.
Those are all the things, but
Hit the phone recorder in your pocket.
I don't think that's a good idea.
No, you're right. You're right. You're right. It was a joke. It was a joke, campus. It was a joke. But to your point, no, I get it. I get it. It's easy for somebody in my profession to do it because it's there. You can hit the button and go back and listen. And when you're dealing with people in a coaching situation, it's not always as easy.
Well, and that's why, having somebody like Mackenzie, because we get done with a meeting or whatever, I'll be like, how'd that sound? Was that okay? Was it, this or that? And I'll ask players that, hey, but, I think with our philosophy, it's just really simple. After any practice, any tournament, anything, we have 3 simple questions. What was good? You always start off with what was good. It's amazing how hard that is for some people to find it, what was good, because they're very critical of each other, of themselves. And then, okay, well, what needs to be better? Not that it was bad, but what can we do to be better? And then what's the plan to get that going?
Right.
And so we always say, look, what are 1 or 2 things that we can just try to improve that helps us the next tournament, the next practice? And that's we've had that philosophy for a long time. We keep pushing it. I know they probably get tired of hearing it, but it's very simple and it's very, very easy to do.
And there has to be a trust between you, your assistant, and if you're going to ask for that feedback from your players, then you better be willing to hear it, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not always going to hear what you want to hear. Now, you don't always have to accept it, and it may be coming from a place that's not always a good place or whatever, but if you're going to ask for it, you better be willing to hear it.
Well, and I think you're right, and I think those are the times when if you hear it enough, a few times, then okay, that's probably something. If it's something that's said under emotional, duress or something, you got to be careful with that. But I think I'm always wanting to find ways to be better. And it's like you said, I don't have gray hair for no reason. I've earned every one of these, so it's part of the process, and that's why we love doing it.
But there's a lot of wins in those gray hairs as well.
Yeah, the funny story was when I got here, I still have the ID in my pocket. I was brown hair, brown goatee. Then my goatee started getting some gray in it, and the girls started laughing at me. And I'm like, well, you know what those are? And they said, no. And I said, that's every 3-putt I've seen. Well, I ran out of room, so I had to go full beard.
Nice.
Yeah.
As we're visiting with Jeff Hull, talking women's golf on this week's edition of Inside Furman Athletics.
By the way, 3-putts are not like 3-pointers.
Yeah,
they're
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not good. Golf, you want lower scores. Basketball, you want higher scores. Yeah, no, I got it. What does this conference look like? I mean, you're always going to be expected to be at the top, and I know you embrace that. But what does the rest of the conference look like?
It's like anything else in the conference. I think every team just keeps getting better. There was a point when we would dominate, and we would go into conference thinking not are we going to win, but how much can we win by? Whereas now we just go in and say, look, we just we need to take care of business. So you have teams like Mercer, Chat, and ETSU. ETSU is the only team to have won conference, since I've been here, other than us.
Right.
So, they're good. Samford has been pretty good. They've got a great player. She's the top-ranked player in the conference right now. So, they can always do something. But I think, Mercer and Chat right now are probably the top 2 contenders. And again, they're good. I think if you go into a tournament, if you play your best, you hope that you take care of business. But on any given, Sunday, as they say, you never know.
Well, it's funny because on one hand, it's a long season for collegiate golf because you get to start and play in the fall, so you play both fall and spring. But as we're sitting here, you've got 4 weekend tournaments before the Southern Conference Championship, April 14th through the 16th, and then the NCAA's, the regionals, May 5th through the 7th, and the NCAA championships May 16th through the 21st. So all of a sudden, it's starting to accelerate, isn't it?
Well, and we always tell the players, like when they get here in the fall, they don't understand, and it's like you're drinking from a fire hose. When they get here, they've never experienced anything like that. And I said, but the great thing about the fall is when you finish, you're done, and then you can study and get ready for exams. Whereas the spring, we keep going, and you're going to be studying. You've got finals, you've got conference, you've got regionals, you got all this going on. So it's now you're drinking out of two fire hoses,
Right.
So it's not a let up, and that's why a lot of times in the summer I tell them, like, take it easy. You don't have to play a lot of tournaments in the summer. We do a lot. Just keep sharp, but find that time to kind of reset.
I talk about this quite often, but I always get a kick out of talking to freshmen, and especially freshmen who become sophomores, and ask them what they were told about what life was going to be like here versus what it was actually like. And they said, we were warned, but it didn't even touch what it was actually like.
And it's so interesting because I was talking to Natalie sort of Austin not too long ago, and she's in med school now.
Mm-hmm.
And she was brilliant. She was 3.9 something GPA, and she's in med school, and she goes, I said, how's it compared to Furman? And she goes, as hard and as much volume as we got at Furman, it's not even close to what she's getting in med school. It's just constant coming
Right.
at her. So that's why Furman's so good, is it is a good preparatory for the next phase.
All right, so you are back in action on the weekend of March 2nd through the 4th. You're heading out to Tucson, Arizona for the Mountain View Collegiate. Have you played that course before?
I have not. Mackenzie played in it when she was in school at UNLV, so she's familiar with it. It's a good field. It's a great tournament, and it was an opportunity for us to go out west. We used to co-host with UNLV in their tournament, but we kind of did away with that, and so this was a new event for us.
And then March 10th and 11th at the Briars Creek Invitational in Charleston. March 15th and 16th at the Valspar Augusta Invitational down in Augusta, Georgia. And then at the Coach Mo Classic, March 31st and April 1st in St. Augustine.
That's one we're starting. That's our tournament down there. And Coach Mo just Waldy played golf here. And she's the teaching pro down there, and she has a fantastic story. I mean, she's a great person. She helps us out a lot. She's a wonderful teacher, great supporter. And so we're calling it the Coach Mo Classic because that's her social media handle, and she does a ton of podcasts. She does a ton of teaching, and she was a junior golf leader in North Florida and just a great person. So we're really excited to kind of honor her in this way and kind of create a new event.
Well, this has been fun. It's always great to catch up with you. Looking forward to seeing how your ladies do moving forward, and hopefully there's not much three-putting adding to to what you got going on over there.
Yeah, we don't want to be called Threeville. That's a bad thing for us.
You're right. You're right. It's good to see you, my friend.
Thank you, Dan.
You can follow what's going on with the Furman women's golf program and all of the Furman athletic programs at FurmanPaladins.com. And there's all the live scoring, anything that's going to be on television, all the information will be there. And you can follow those tournaments as they happen. Next week on the show, we'll be talking women's tennis with Michelle Dasso. That is next week's edition of Inside Furman Athletics. Until then, for Jeff Hull and all of us at Furman, I'm Dan Scott saying God bless you. So long, everybody.